welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. This week's debate is a difficult one, reconciling matters of faith with constitutional values of equality. Can the two coexist, or rather the two have to coexist? Can faith reform from within? What happens when there is a clash? In a constitutional democracy, is the Constitution the ultimate holy book? We'll raise all these questions in our debate that are now at the forefront with what happened in Sabarimala. Tomorrow the temple opens once again. Is there a mid-path? Joining me for more from Kerala is Finance Minister Dr. Thomas Isaac. I'm also joined by Lalitha Kumaramangalam, former chairperson of the National Commission of Women, also with the BJP. Also with me will be Rahul Easwar, president of the Ayyappa Dharma Sena, Malavika Avinash, BJP spokesperson and advocate, Sushmita Dev, head of the Congress Women's Wing, also Professor Madhavi Menon of Ashoka University. Thank you all very much for being with me. Dr. Isaac, if I can begin with you, the Kerala government is now facing criticism from many quarters. There's a political battle against you with BJP President Amit Shah saying that he will bring down the Kerala government over the arrest of over 2,000 people at Sabarimala. How will you react, and how do you think tomorrow, the 5th, when the temple actually opens for the day, how is it going to be any different?
It's highly unfortunate that the leader of the national ruling party should come challenging the implementation of the Supreme Court verdict. That's the first thing to be stated. Now, the criticism is that government is high-handed, has been harassing large number of BJP workers. Now, look into the records. The Kerala government has been most restrained during the days of pilgrimage. Even under gravest provocations, we have been desisting from using violence on those days. But we have videos, photos of every culprit, everybody who has been indulging in violence, attacking women, the journalists, and destroying vehicles. And now the law is catching up with them. Now the criticism is that too many are being arrested. When the Hadia case came, let me remind you, there's a Hindu woman converting to Islam and marrying a Muslim. There was such a big commotion. There was protest by certain Muslim groups. More than 2,000 were arrested. Similarly, if you look at major cases like the protest by the SDPI, nearly 2,000 were arrested again. So why only now?
That's an interesting.
Whenever there are sects of people, both.
Are you saying that there's a communal reason then? Are you saying the BJP's Amit Shah is picking this up because there are Hindus involved? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that BJP, Amit Shah, has been trying to foment trouble. You see. What is he grousing against? What is his position? What is BJP's RSS position regarding entering women into Sabarimala? While the case was going on, BJP never became in the attempt to influence me, enter in the court. They were not a party to the case. They refused. They stayed away. On the hand, RSS have been campaigning a number of times in favor of women entry. Now, Supreme Court, in its wisdom, gives a verdict. Any government in India, state or center, is duty bound to implement the Supreme Court verdict. That's
that's an important point. Any state in India, by the Constitution, is duty bound to follow
to subvert the decision.
To follow the Supreme Court. But let me just bring in Lalitha Kumaramangalam on that. Ma'am, also as ex-chairperson of the National Commission of Women, what do you think firstly about the Supreme Court verdict, which all the three judges, in fact, laid out very strong arguments on why they feel women shouldn't be treated as second-class citizens, women because of menstruation, which is a biological function, cannot be kept out of a temple. As the head of the ex-head of the NCW and today as a BJP member, do you support what Amit Shah is saying?
Look, I don't want to politicize what is basically seemingly a clash between people who believe in the Constitution and people who have their own religious beliefs that they believe in, whether you want to call it blindly or totally. As a woman, I feel that nobody should be able to tell me when and where I should worship or I shouldn't. While I understand the feelings of the people who will not agree with me, what I would like is for them to understand my feelings too. Now, in this case, the Supreme Court had to take a decision because there was a complaint filed, or rather a PIL filed, by a lady who says that she is a bhakta of Ayyappan. And the various reasons that are given by those who are the devotees of Ayyappa, well, to them I am sure it makes sense. Now, I don't question those beliefs because faith is a matter of belief. But this has become a clash between the faith and the constitution. Now, in the interest, I think, of the law being upheld, the Supreme Court's verdict has to be respected. What will happen, what will not happen once the temple is reopened, I don't know. But as a person, as an Indian, I sincerely hope that both sides, regardless of however difficult it may be, will sit down and try to talk to each other and figure some way out. Well, but it is true that generally the onus on celibacy is always put on women. Now, I have always found this unfair. And in that sense, I think that, you shouldn't tell me or any other woman who does not believe in these that I am wrong because I don't believe, and that I cannot do something if I would like to do it.
Well, that's an interesting voice of reason, ma'am, especially since it comes so directly opposite to what the BJP has been saying, that Rath Yatras across the state now actually against the arrests of those 2,000 people. And let me just bring in one of the people who have been arrested, Rahul Easwar. And Rahul Easwar, you've been criticized for actually trying to create publicity out of this movement, not by me, but by the priests of Sabarimala, where they actually issued a statement saying that they do not agree with what you said, that blood will be spilled from open wounds if a woman actually enters the Sabarimala temple. So there's also this whole aspect of whether there are people trying to get publicity by entering the temple, are there people who are not, women who are not genuine devotees but who want the publicity, and also people attacking you, saying what you're doing is also for publicity, and how can you make a statement threatening violence and saying blood will flow? What did you mean by that?
This is a fight between faith and atheism. And we want Supreme Court to be culturally sensitive, and we implore, we beg the Supreme Court for Supreme Court benevolence. 2 points. One, Sabarimala is not a regulation for man, but a regulation for women, but more of a prescription for man. The deeply concept in Sabarimala is of Naishtika Brahmacharya. It has been like that for centuries altogether. We are only pointing out there is a lady Sabarimala. So there is a Sabarimala here, and there is a lady Sabarimala where women, 30 lakh women offer Pongala, or even in Nari Puja, where no man are allowed to participate. So it is only like a diversity. There is no discrimination.
But Mr. Easwar, whatever your argument, and you may have a very valid argument, the point is you are not above the Supreme Court. This is a Supreme Court order. There's a review petitions which are pending. The Supreme Court will hear that. How can you threaten violence?
Absolutely no, ma'am. Please don't picturize us as either law-breaking citizens. We are only respectful of Supreme Court. That's the reason why we have gone ahead and filed reviews. We have gone ahead and filed writ petitions. We are pointing out that this shouldn't be seen with the gender prism, because lakhs of women...
No, but didn't you say that blood will flow if a woman enters Sabarimala temple? What did you mean by that?
Absolutely no, ma'am. I said there are even people who are ready to spill blood. I talked to them and I told them we only need a Gandhian way out. We have written it and given it to the magistrate here and the police, and my one line was taken out of context to picturize every devotee as bad or every devotee as threatened riot. Please remember, it is a non-communal, non-political and non-violent thing. One sentence in a 36-minute press meet was taken out of context. We have already given clarification, and please remember, we are absolutely law-abiding citizens. We don't think...
Well, the Minister Thomas Isaac is smiling as you're saying that. Do you accept what Rahul Easwar is saying? He's law-abiding. Don't take it out of context. And your government actually arrested him as well. But he says he's completely law-abiding. Dr. Isaac, did the Kerala government overreact?
Well, I have heard Rahul Easwar on the television trying to raise a passion beyond all rationality inside people. And the interpretation about letting blood is not what he said. In fact, he said he had a plan B, where if anyone dared to enter the temple, the volunteers would shed the blood and desecrate the temple and have it closed down. Now, this is outright challenging the Supreme Court verdict, inciting rioting, and he will have to be booked. He will have to come to the court. Let him go to the court. He has been arrested, he has given bail. What has happened? So you're saying anybody can break the law, incite rioting, and they should not be touched?
Right. Well, let me
and
just...
regarding the faith, there are interpretations. This Rahul Easwar's statement of the faith is not the single interpretation of the faith. You read, for example, Outlook magazine, what Professor Rajan Gurukul has written regarding what was that the Ayyappa was once upon a time a deity of the
exactly. In fact, so we have people who will also talk about that
and
interpretation.
how they viewed it. So that means very different.
I just want to get the politics also of it because it's really become such a political issue. So
Sushmita
Dev joins us also, who is head of the women's wing of the Congress. And Sushmita, the Congress, as usual, is trying to have it both ways. Rahul Gandhi has said that, well, I think that women should be able to enter the Sabarimala temple, but my state unit doesn't think so. So I'll go with what they feel because they represent the people. I mean, how can the Congress have it both ways?
See, as far as we are concerned, religion is a personal thing. What you believe in, what I believe in, which part of my religion I think is good and healthy and which part of my religious beliefs and customs I don't agree is an individual choice. And I think, I mean, the need of the hour is not to have a political stand from a party point of view. I mean, that's the need of the hour. Today, if Kerala, people of Kerala, the people who belong to Kerala Congress live in Kerala, they have a certain lifestyle, they have certain beliefs, they're entitled to it.
No, but the Supreme Court has given an order.
I think as a national president, if he is refraining from taking a political stand on it and going in the direction of taking an individual stand, I feel that's the right thing to do.
Well, then let's take what your Kerala Congress stand is, because that is a stand which is completely opposing the Supreme Court order.
Absolutely.
Dr. Isaac is also from Kerala, and there are many women devotees from Kerala who do want to go to the temple.
Right.
So why is it that this seems to be again a part of vote bank politics, that the majority may well want this, so then we'll go that way. But in Delhi, we support the Supreme Court, in Kerala, we support a different view.
See, first of all, the question is Supreme Court is already ruled. Okay, so what I say and what Rahul ji says and what the Kerala Congressman says and what the Honorable Minister says, to my mind, cannot impact the Supreme Court judgment unless there is a legal way to undo what's done. So that aside, if someone asks a national president of the party for his position, I think he has every right to distance himself politically from it and have an individual view. In fact, I'm sorry to say, religion should stay out of politics. I mean, today people in Kerala Congress have taken a stand, not because they're in the Congress, but because they are past out that custom. They've been a part of that usage and that practice for over the years.
No, but I have to say, then let's just try. Suppose it was the issue, and Malavika Avinash ji, if you can come in on this, take the issue of triple talaq. Now, people who are for triple talaq have also argued that this is a matter of our religion. Why did the Supreme Court intervene? In that case, the BJP was all for it. The BJP, in fact, there the centre supported the abolition of triple talaq in the Supreme Court. As Dr. Isaac pointed out here, the centre didn't actually support women not coming in, which the BJP is saying now. So why are standards different when it comes to triple talaq? For instance, also the entry of women into Haji Ali in Mumbai. Again, that was laid down by the law. It was allowed. It happened. There was some isolated protest, but no political party took it up. Why is this case different? Malavika ji.
I think you're drawing a wrong parallel. Let me begin by saying that somehow this debate has been contextualized as a tradition versus constitution debate, while actually it is a constitution versus constitution debate. My right to faith under the constitution as a believer of certain customs and tradition of my religion versus the right of a non-believer under Article 14. That is the context of this debate. It is a believer versus non-believer debate. And let me correct ma'am, Lalitha ma'am, who began by saying that a woman who happened to be a devotee went to the court. No ma'am, she did not. In fact, what prompted the very petition was an article written by a non-believer, by an acclaimed journalist who presumed that there was trouble in Sabarimala, who did not know much about Sabarimala and chose to write. And following her writing was this petition. In fact, 3 out of the 5 petitioners who went to court subsequently, right before the Supreme Court, feigned ignorance of where Sabarimala is and what the traditions are, and have actually withdrawn from the whole process. And the court still chose to go ahead because after all the petition had been filed. And let me also speak of how misunderstood this is by the government itself. The Honorable Minister spoke. He spoke of profiling of those who wanted to brew trouble. Really, sir, you have made 3,000 arrests. Have you profiled all 3,000 of them? Are you harboring so many criminals in your state then? Then there must be something really amiss.
No, he did say, Malavika ji, that in the Hadia case also they arrested over 2,000 people and no protest was made there.
Let me finish. Let me finish, ma'am.
Yes.
So here was a government which did not understand the aspirations of its own people, and hence this clash. Had the government defended the customs and the traditions of the Hindus who voted them to power, the communist government as it may be, but still it was voted by the people of Kerala who seem to believe in this tradition. Had the government understood their aspirations, this clash would not have occurred at all.
Let me just call Dr. Isaac to respond, and then I'll come to the professor in this debate. But Malavika ji, let me just point out, Constitution versus devotion is something
Mr. Arun Jaitley got his fair share. Let me finish, ma'am.
No, I just want to say that the Finance Minister of India, Mr. Arun Jaitley, has just said that it is Constitution versus devotion. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Go ahead, Dr. Isaac, you want to respond?
I totally disagree with this interpretation. I totally disagree with you. This is not a conflict between believer and non-believer. The fact is, among the believers, devotees, there is a section who, traditional view, that the women should not enter the temple.
So how many petitioners happen to be believers, sir? How many of those women who attempted entry are believers, sir?
Let me complete.
It was a Fatima
Let me complete here.
It was.
Come on, stop shouting. Stop shouting and listen to me. Listen to me. One of the greatest sages of
one aspect of the dialogues is don't interrupt each other, please. So let's just pause. Let's not interrupt each other. All of you will get fair time. Dr. Isaac, go ahead. Malavika ji, I will come back to you after that. Let's try this show not to interrupt each other. Go ahead, Dr. Isaac. I'll come back to you, Malavika ji. Go ahead, Dr. Isaac.
Soon after 1991 verdict came, one of the greatest sages of Kerala, after Sri Narayana Guru, his disciple, Nitya Chaitanya Yadi, wrote a long article saying that this is totally wrong. The women will not pollute Sabarimala. They should have the right to go. So what I am saying is there is a section in the devotees who have always taken the position that women can and should enter. And today, the entire backward caste, scheduled caste, they are devotees. They are community organizations. They have come out against this position that women should not be allowed to enter the temple. So it is not a fight between believers and non-believers. There are two interpretations of the belief.
All right,
and Supreme Court in its wisdom has looked into it and said that one set of belief that women should not enter is against the Indian Constitution. That's what has happened.
All right, Malavika ji,
among the two
why don't you get your own by now, and then we'll
Supreme Court has determined one interpretation is against the Constitution.
All right.
That's what happened.
Malavika ji, why don't you go ahead with your response, and I want to go to Professor Menon and then back to Rahul Easwar. Malavika ji, go ahead.
As much as the minister would like to believe that it is the petitioners who are going to court, unfortunately it is not. I have not seen a single petitioner claiming to be a devotee. The petitioners are only claiming of a right against discrimination. Why do they really care about a right against discrimination? And why should be my right to religious freedom subservient to a non-believer's right to right against discrimination? My question is that why is my right under Article 25 and 26 subservient to your right under Article 14?
All right, ma'am. Let me just get in Professor Madhavi Menon. You've been listening to all the politics around it, the issues of faith around it. It is a difficult question. There are no easy answers. There's no one right answer. But in a sense, the law has been laid down in this case. What's your take on this? What's your perspective?
Well, I wonder if I'm the only woman on this panel, maybe not, who's actually been to Sabarimala. Of course, before the age of 10. And I didn't know at that point why I was being taken when I was so young. And the only blood that flowed that day was when a leech attached itself to my foot. But of course, the idea is that, of course, blood will flow if menstruating women go to Sabarimala, and so what? You see, the thing is, and this is exactly what you just said, Sonia, there are no easy answers, but the only split here is between those who want to assume there are easy answers and those who want to take the time to actually understand the complexity of it. And I will dare to say so much as those who want easy answers are the ones who are propounding violence, are the ones who are making these outrageous statements, and the ones who want to think about the issue complexly are actually the ones debating this, as I hope we all are.
Can I point out
And so the idea is, who has said that menstruating women cannot enter Sabarimala? Who has said this?
Please.
There is not a single scriptural document. There is not a single recorded incident. There is tradition and custom, which, as we all know, even if we go back to the Vaikam struggles to allow Dalits into temples, custom and tradition have been written by privileged, patriarchal, Brahmanical society, not just in Kerala, but everywhere. And so if you are going to accord that subjective slice of society the right to control all of society, then that is a problem. And the Supreme Court becomes the last bastion that can support and protect minorities in all their right. And I'd also like to point out, of course, that as soon as the Sabarimala violence has been escalating, there was a petition in the Kerala High Court, which luckily the Kerala High Court dismissed today, saying non-Hindus should be banned from entering Sabarimala. And Sabarimala is one of the few temples in this country that not only accepts and acknowledges, but welcomes believers of multiple faiths, and Muslims particularly.
In fact, Rahul Easwar, if I can just bring you in on this, just to read some excerpts of that judgment. The Chief Justice at that time, Justice Mishra, said devotion can't be subjected to gender discrimination. Justice Rohanta Nariman said women of all ages are equal worshippers of Lord Ayyappa. Justice Chandrachud said to treat women as children of lesser God is to blink at the Constitution. The dissenting note, Justice Indu Malhotra, interestingly a woman, said that the issues raised have serious implications for all religions, shouldn't interfere with issues of deep religious sentiments. But let me ask you, Rahul Easwar, that in the case of women entry into Haji Ali, are you for it or against it? In the case of triple talaq, which again many Muslim men there say is an issue of faith, even though it's not mentioned in the Quran, say it's an issue of faith. Do you support triple talaq being abolished, or are you for it?
And two things, ma'am. Let us not compare apples and pineapples. Even though they sound alike, they don't taste alike. Second very important point. Please understand that we are constitutional abiding citizens. We don't have any issue with the Constitution. This is a fight between, on one hand, it's a fight between devotion and one interpretation.
But Lalitha Kumaramangalam, if I could actually bring you in, because you've been listening, and I think it's interesting again that how it's not really about political divides, but other deeper divides on this debate as well. If you can just come in on these two issues, because that is what the BJP is being targeted for being a slightly hypocritical on. I said the Congress is hypocritical here on wanting it both ways, but the BJP also being hypocritical that on triple talaq, it's an issue of equality of women, but on this it's not. And the point Dr. Isaac made that the BJP didn't actually oppose this in court, the centre didn't file an affidavit against it.
No, the triple talaq issue was actually, the Supreme Court had directed the BJP, the government to give its answer as soon as possible. And therefore they replied in, it took a long time, the triple talaq issue also, as you know. But this, I think, is a different issue. The point here is not the politics of it, Sonia. It's unfortunate the politics has come into it. The point here is probably the intolerance between both sides. It can't be true that if I don't agree with the hardcore, and that's just, a word I'm using, please don't take it in the wrong way, supporters or believers of Ayyappa, if my belief in Ayyappa is slightly different than theirs, I don't think it's right for them to call me a non-believer. I've never visited the shrine, but I have a lot of friends who are very, very ardent followers of Ayyappa, visit there every year, and often, the women have said that we also would like to go, we'd like to see, because he's supposed to be an extremely strong and a very proud in the sense that very confident deity, etc. And you know how everybody would like to go to the deities, other people whose friends, when your friends believe in him, etc. The fact here is that at this point in time, the Supreme Court has given a verdict. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, it is the Supreme Court's verdict. Of course, there is a review petition now. Let's see what happens. But tomorrow when the temple opens, I only hope, for Ayyappa's sake, that there is no violence, regardless of whatever may be the cause that is being ascribed to it. I only hope there is no violence and no threat of violence either. The Hindu religion should not, should eschew violence. I don't think Ayyappa was ever a violent god, and I think it would be extremely harmful to him if his followers, use violence as a means to keep those who they believe are disbelievers away from him.
Rahul Easwar, if I can come back to you, we lost your Skype connection. But if you can
don't
just answer that question about...
word here, please.
Just you're right. We don't believe in
have
violence.
a word here after Rahul
Unfortunately,
Easwar
in the
speaks.
632 programs that happened in 12 states and 6 nations, 2 or 3 programs, there was some kind of provocation and violence. We have apologized for it. We have apologized for some, kind of wrong remarks from many of our devotees' side. But please understand that lakhs of women already visit Sabarimala every year. There is only a mere age regulation. That age regulation is portrayed as gender discrimination and is used as a tool to defame Sabarimala. I go to Sabarimala with my mother and grandmother. There is no gender discrimination. There is only an age regulation.
No, but Rahul Easwar, I don't think anyone is defaming Sabarimala at all. Please, that's not. I think if anything, it's more about people who claim to be representing, Lord Ayyappa or Sabarimala, which is the problem. It's not about defaming Sabarimala. But just to ask, do you assure that there will be no violence on the 5th, and then again later when the temple opens on the main season, do you assure that there will be no violence if the Kerala government enforces the law of the land, the Supreme Court order?
Violence either.
And, we own up our mistake. We will never justify violence. We own up our mistake. And if mistakes happen from our side, we are only proud to apologize. We are subjected to correction. We only thank media. I personally called each and every media person as far as I could, and I personally apologized to them for some violence from the devotee side. See, we own up our mistakes. It was unfortunate.
Okay, so that's good to hear. You're saying that there will be no violence from your side or your supporter side. Malvika ji, go ahead. You wanted to come in? Go ahead.
Versus atheism, and not regarding constitution. It is a matter of faith.
Right, I've understood that. But Malvika ji, if you can also just come in on this point, that the BJP can't on the one hand, the same question I asked Lalitha ji, that the BJP can't on the one hand support abolition of triple talaq and on the other hand say that this area is sacrosanct. It has to be the same for all religions, which is what the Supreme Court verdict said as well.
There are 2-3 things I'd like to say. First and foremost, I don't think anybody subscribes to violence, and violence of every nature has to be condemned, be it against the journalist who made the attempt to enter or against anyone else, believer or non-believer, whoever made that attempt to enter. Should, any violence against any of them is condemnable, and nobody really subscribes to or ascribes to violence. Now, that having been said, the triple talaq matter and the Sabarimala matter, I still insist are different, because those who went to court are not those who are aggrieved. In the case of triple talaq, it is the women who were aggrieved by the tradition that went to court. And let me also say about this majority-minority debate, if you ask me, it is the majority of the nation which is trying to undermine the minority's aspirations, which happens to be the believers of the Sabarimala's tradition in Kerala. It is the majority of the nation which is trying to sort of, trample upon their aspirations, and it is travesty to them. If they believe in a tradition, you want to trample upon them using the constitution. Right. Aren't they entitled to rights under the constitution as much as the others are?
Let me bring in Sushmita Dev.
It is the same constitution for all. Let me also say one last thing, and I'll end my submission, that the constitution is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And if the constitution were to overpower the people, then what constitution would it be really? And I think we also need to respect the words of Justice Indu Malhotra, who believes that this is not a matter to be interfered with. We all know of the national anthem case. What happened there? Weren't traditions respected in the national anthem case?
Right,
why have we forgotten that?
Let me just bring in Sushmita Dev on that, because Sushmita, as I said, do you feel that it's apples and pineapples to compare what happened in the issue of abolition of triple talaq, where again I have to say the Congress was late in the sense of actually being the prime movers, that it was very late. Again, it was very carefully balanced, because the feeling was that are you offending a majority Muslim sentiment in that case? Does it go back to the historic mistake the Congress made in the Shah Bano case, that you never, rather than going in the view which is of a, say, larger equality issue, it all becomes about vote bank politics, and this has been the Congress bugbear?
So, answering your question directly, the Daniel Latifi case is on record, Supreme Court, to say that the act that Rajiv ji bought after Shah Bano case is a progressive act. But nobody wants to talk about that. We'll talk about it another day. See, triple talaq was banned by the Supreme Court. Congress welcomed it. The bill is about criminalization of triple talaq. So there are two separate issues. Sabarimala is about the equality, the right to practice religion, and a very old and I think strongly, people feel strongly about this practice, about this custom that has been there for years. That's the clash. So the question is, does the Supreme Court protect it under 25(1) or is it about Article 14 and equality?
What do you feel as a woman?
See, as a woman, I feel that any practice, any usage, any custom, however old and however deeply entrenched in it, that culminates as gender bias should not be allowed. See, menstruation is not under my control. You're just like everyone's heart bleeds. I bleed 5 days in a month or 7 days in a month. Now, you're saying that this is a humiliation or an insult to Ayyappa to say that allow a woman to go in there. But I'm sorry, this is gender bias as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, whether the Supreme Court should have interfered or no, that's Supreme Court's call and it has been taken as far as I'm concerned.
Professor Menon, I just want to ask you on that this is actually, at least what we saw in Sabarimala and Kerala, that it hasn't really become just about gender, because there are a large number of women who've come out, not necessarily devotees, but even other people who said, we're also ready to wait, that this is also an issue that doesn't need to be steamrolled or bulldozed in a sense, that it should be something. And what is true is that of the women who went up, some did seem to have other reasons than those of faith to actually be entering the temple. So it's slightly more complex than just gender here.
Well, never underestimate the fact that patriarchy has a lot of female supporters. If it was only men who were patriarchs, it would never survive. So patriarchy is not about the distinction between men and women. Patriarchy is about a structure in which women are repeatedly told that they are inferior to men. And both men and women collude in that, as we can see from our fellow panelists as well, unfortunately. You know, what Sushmita was just saying, this is one of, if we're looking at this from the legal perspective, this is one of the problems we have to confront, which is to say, one of the fault lines in secularism is that religion is considered private. As such, if religion is private, then it cannot be legislated upon. However, and we all know this is true in our country, religion is the least private thing of all. It is extremely public, quite apart from the fact that the Devaswam board is publicly funded
and
from out of the state coffers. Yeah. So when state funds are going towards the upkeep of an institution, can you then say patriarchally that women cannot go in? That is the problem. So it is not about religion being personal, which I don't think it is. I think it's deeply public. But this is one of the issues around secularism that we have to be able to confront. That's one of the difficult issues I was talking about earlier.
And it's interesting because secularism is such a rarely heard word nowadays. It's nice to hear it in the debate. But final thoughts on the dialogues. Malavika Avinash, why don't you go ahead? Final arguments tonight on the dialogues. Go ahead, Malavika Avinash.
No, there is this misnomer and misunderstanding about menstruation and impurity and all of that. I think the larger Sanatana Hindu Dharma does not believe that women are impure when they are menstruating or otherwise. I think that again is a completely misunderstood idea that you can't go to the temple or you must not go to the temple when you are menstruating. This is entirely to do with Apanavayu. I don't know if I should get into all that. This is about energy flow, one which is meant to flow upwards towards the cosmos and to infuse with the cosmic energy, which is why we go to temples, which is the larger reason for praying or meditating, you know, where the energy flows from Mooladhara to the Sahasrara. That's the belief of the larger Sanatana Hindu Dharma, which clashes with energy that flows downwards during menstruation. So this is the idea behind women restraining themselves from going to temples. It's not as if women are banned from going to temples when they are menstruating. I think that's completely misunderstood. That's a much larger debate. As it stands today, the Supreme Court has indeed interfered and ordered with a tradition of a large majority of believers in Kerala, and I do hope that the review petition brings some hope
do you agree
to all those
with the
women
minister
on the street protesting.
Just a question, do you agree with the Minister Smriti Irani who said taking a blood-stained sanitary napkin to a temple is desecration. Again, we're not clear what she meant exactly. Was it about the fake news that one of the women who tried to go was carrying a bloodstained napkin? But then what's the larger message that goes out when a senior BJP woman minister says that?
I think that's best for her to explain, because I'm not aware of what she said or meant.
Okay. Okay. Final words. Lalitha Kumaramangalam, please go ahead. And I said it's always interesting to have so many different perspectives on two BJP members. Lalitha Kumaramangalam, did you hear what Smriti Irani said, and were you wondering also what she meant?
I came to know about it later, and I am still wondering what she meant.
Yeah, no one understood what she said.
I think there could have been better ways of putting her opinion across. But that's not the point. The point, this is not about Smriti Irani. This is about this, as I said, a clash which I hope both sides will have the foresight and the sagacity to sit down and discuss what is the way forward. All religions have sometimes had to change. Hinduism itself had at one time, as you know, in history become too stultified perhaps, and that may be the wrong word to use, and we had a lot of reform that was brought into Hinduism. Perhaps today this is what certain people like me are asking for, that why don't we sit down and have a discussion about it, and let's not take extreme sides. I know there are always extreme feelings in religion and things to do with any religious matters, but there have to be some people who can take a step back from both sides and say that yes, let's see what can be done. There are different explanations for why women don't go to the temple during their periods, but let me tell you, 90% of us don't know the explanation that Ms. Malavika Chauhan just gave. We are just told that you don't go, we don't go. Right, wrong is a different question, and that's a topic for another day, another debate. But in this case, I hope that we really can sort this out much more amicably than it is now. It's too important to be left hanging, and for them to be violence, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, religious, etc., or
That's
even political. I don't think, I don't mean this.
But perhaps, and let me come.
So I really hope
Yes.
that we can come to terms with each other's points of view and agree to disagree and, amicably move forward.
Well, that's really the whole point of a dialogue. And Dr. Isaac, let me ask you that perhaps the Kerala government also needs to be the main movers in trying to create a dialogue. Why not reach out to young Rahul Easwar there, very fiery on many issues, but why not reach out and perhaps look at a dialogue with the Devas on board, with the temples of Sabarimala, with the fact, because this isn't something that can actually be just steamrolled. You can arrest 2,000 people, you can arrest 4,000 people. It's still an issue that has to be dealt with in a way which perhaps needs statesmanship. However, let me say the Chief Minister Vijayan's speeches on the need for reform was also an important one. How is the Kerala government going to actually look at a statesman-like way to try and bring together the emotions of so many different people and devotees?
Well, you can read a public document, affidavit given by the Kerala government. First, we said we are against any form of discrimination against women. Two, we said that this is a matter of faith and therefore very sensitive issue. Therefore, court must consult all the devotees and sections and scholars, etc., before coming to a judgment. Three, we said whatever be the decision of the court, we will faithfully implement. Now, court went for 12 years into all evidences, testimonies, and various issues that were being raised here today, and constitutional bench came to a decision. Now, the government invited the Tantri, the so-called Pandalam Raja, and there was everybody to come to discuss. Discuss what? Discuss how this decision of the constitutional bench can be implemented. They refused, boycotted. Then we are really open to discussion, but discuss what? Not how to subvert the constitutional decision. The discussion is to how to amicably implement it. Kerala government is not appealing to women to come to Sabarimala, but if any woman comes and says, now court has given me the right, I want to go, the state will try to provide all the protection to her. That is the duty of the state. That's what we are going to do.
So you're saying that the Kerala government is just going to follow the law. Rahul Easwar, go ahead.
I got it. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Rahul Easwar. Final thoughts from you.
Sabarimala is a pluralistic Hindu temple where we respect Islamic and Christian tradition, and Christian Muslim Brothers organization formally supported us. We Kerala caste religions are united to save Sabarimala because we feel that we have been misunderstood. When lakhs of women are already going into Sabarimala, they claim it is a gender discrimination. We will be going ahead in a non-communal, non-political and non-violent way to point out that we are only having a Gandhian mode of protest. If some mistakes happen from us, we will apologize, that we are trying to point out that this is the character of the DP, which is an eternal celibate, and that's the base of this. And even constitutionally looking, the DP is a perpetual minor whose rights should be supported by the Supreme Court. So we are pointing out it is an in-depth spiritual matter, and we support Hindu Malhotra's these judgments.
So, a Gandhian way of protest. I don't think you can ever think that Mahatma Gandhi, who was so much for reform, would lend his support in any sense to this kind of protest. But final thoughts, Thomas Isaac, just to you. Do you think, as Amit Shah said in your state, that this issue will bring down your government? Malavika ji made that point that the Hindus who voted for you are disappointed by this. It's the Congress in the state, is your former ally has also gone against, is not supporting the Kerala government on this. So the communist government is very much isolated in this case. Do you think it's going to be something which is going to affect you vote-wise? And when I talk about vote bank politics with both the Congress and the BJP, what's your take on that? Do you think both are actually trying to reap the gains of it or benefits of it?
If anybody had any doubt what is going on in Kerala, Amit Shah sealed it. Now, it's so clear. It's a political game that is being played out by BJP. The RSS leadership, which had been supporting women entering the temple, even after the verdict came, welcomed it, suddenly turned around, took a position, eyeing on the votes that are going to come. But some new fault lines have come. What has happened is the backward caste, scheduled caste, and the Adivasi areas, they have all come out saying that some section is trying to impose upon them a Brahminical tradition, Brahminic interpretation of faith. How that has changed.
But do you
takes claim
but you're
Muslim,
targeting
Christian,
Amit Shah, but what
so
about Rahul Gandhi in the Congress? Do you think it's okay to have one view in Delhi and a different view in Kerala?
Yes. Yes. Now, Rahul Gandhi has taken a position, we have welcomed it. But Congress in Kerala is wavering. Now they are neither there or here. They are going to pay dearly for this. This happened in the last assembly election, when BJP tried to make a grand alliance of all caste organizations in Kerala, from Nampudiris to Adivasis. And Congress thought this is going to undermine left base, and therefore they took a lukewarm attitude. They stayed away. They stayed on the sideline. We took up the fight. And what happened? The Congress base shifted to BJP to some extent, and BJP's vote share went out. We managed to keep our base, and we won a stunning victory.
Well,
this
as
is
I said,
precisely what is going to happen in a larger way.
You'll
in
get
the
your
state of
answers
Kerala.
in 2019.
Let's see what happens. But as I said, this is of course Kerala, the last
you've
communist.
gone on.
In Kerala, the last
You will
Congress,
get your answers from the Hindus of Kerala in 2019.
Well, let's just see. As I said, I don't think anyone can claim to speak for the Hindus of Kerala, the Muslims of Kerala, or the Christians of Kerala. No one party. But of course, the last communist government in India is in Kerala. Let's see how they will actually deal with this matter of faith. No easy answers, but we hope that when the temple opens again tomorrow and later in the month, there will be no violence. A tough challenge for the Kerala government. Thank you all very much for joining me on the Dialogues. Thank you.